Did you mean
Who
to
clicked
start
broadcast?
Okay, so you can see my screen now, sorry, correct?
Okay, we shouldn't have pressed broadcast.
I'll stop it. It sometimes does that, Lionel, when you share your screen. It asks me if I wanted to.
Oh. Okay. All right. So you can unshare your screen, Miriam.
Oh, there's Mitch. Hello.
Hello. This may not be the best backdrop. I'm gonna have to move.
Oh no, it's all right.
I was just trying to find a quiet place in my house.
Okay. Is Lynn going to be presenting at all?
No.
Okay.
Cody, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, Mitch. How are you?
Good, good. Haven't seen you in a while.
Well, I've been adhering to the CDC recommendations.
Yeah. Me too.
Lionel,
Yes.
Charlie Andrews in the attendees list may be sitting in for Amber.
Okay.
I don't know if you can move him over to a panelist.
Doesn't look like it wants to let me move that person.
Cody, are you good for the invocation?
Yeah, I'm good. I was made aware of it about 5 minutes ago, so I'm gonna open up my Bible here and we're gonna start reading. It's gonna be long. Strap in.
Short and sweet.
Okay.
I've been pinned up for 5 weeks. I got a lot to say.
Charles Andrews, I'd like to test your mic, please.
Sure thing.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm sitting in for Amber Dickerson.
All right, let's see. Okay. I think we're just waiting for
Eric, how you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
So Mitch,
Yes.
we decided what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn off our webcams when the flag comes on for the pledge.
Okay.
So then people can't see us standing weird or whatever. And then
Makes sense.
and then just so you know, when you take after you get the motion on the minutes, we are going to need a roll call vote from the clerk. That's how we're going to have to take all the votes, but that's the only vote we should have today.
Okay.
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
just a second.
Melissa, are you going to do all the minutes in one motion, or are you going to do separate motions?
They usually do them all in one motion unless there's a problem with something.
Okay.
Okay, Tatiana, let's test your screen sharing, please. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, it's back to you, Melissa, whenever you want to.
Okay. I don't want to do it yet. It looks like Commissioner Green has joined and Commissioner Rodriguez.
Yeah,
Good afternoon.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
the sound check?
This is Tony. How are you?
Good.
Hello,
Commissioner,
hello, hello. Hey there.
Hello.
Mr. Dix.
I will be here, but I'm going to turn off my webcam so anybody else we can check to make sure they're in.
okay,
But-
great.
All of y'all look wonderful.
Commissioner Green, you're there too?
He doesn't appear to be hooked up with a mic yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Okay.
Listen, is this televised?
It will be televised, yes.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. They finished the emergency policy group early, so it'll even be live televised.
Oh boy.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
This is HTV. That is correct. We will be live to Cablecast as well as the YouTube meetings, just to clarify.
Awesome. Thank you, James.
My pleasure. Glad to help.
And you can't hear me at all right now, right? Awesome.
Yeah, we can hear you.
If we want to
Oh, you
like
can
ask a
hear me.
question, what do we press while we're doing this? Or
Okay,
certain-
let's go ahead and give the rundown real quick.
Yeah.
So for the commissioners, you have free reign of muting and unmuting yourselves and turning on and off your video cameras. Therefore, you do not need nor have the option of raising your hand. So you can do one of two things. You can either send Melissa a chat saying, I would like to say something, and then she can have you recognized, or Commissioner Thrower can then have you recognized. Or you could turn on your video camera, and then Commissioner Thrower will know that you want to speak, and then he'll let you speak. Until that time, we request that everybody has their mic muted and their cameras off. For attendees, people that are not on the board, people that are not commissioners, they have a raise their hand function, and we are monitoring raise their hand functions. So if they want to speak, they'll raise their hand, and then Greg is monitoring that. He will then forward that chat to Melissa saying that, hey, we have somebody in the audience that does want to speak, and then Chairman Thrower will acknowledge them in that fashion.
Okay, thank you.
So just to confirm, this is John real quick. Melissa, you can hear me now, correct? No?
Yes.
Yes, I
Yeah.
muted myself.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. And now I'm going to mute and just nod your head if you're not hearing.
We do not hear you.
Hey, Melissa, it's Steve Bernstein. Can you quickly give me your cell number just so I have it?
Absolutely. It's 813-390-6324.
Thanks.
And now that's broadcast all over everywhere.
It's okay. I mean, it's in my business cards. Hey, there's Commissioner Green.
Good.
Oh.
I can't hear him though.
Okay, if we'd probably need to send him then that phone number.
Okay. I'm gonna,
I could go ahead and send that to him.
I think I got it pasted in the chat. Commissioner Green, if you look in the chat box, there's a number to call on the phone if you don't, since we can't hear you through the computer.
Okay, Jay, I've just made you a panelist. Are you going to be maybe having to answer questions? Is that what you had mentioned, correct?
If I'm asked to answer a question, I certainly will. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Hey, Jay.
Can you hear us?
Melissa, this is Tracy. I'm here too.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tracy.
Melissa, this is James Brewer with HTV. This is a 2-minute warning to 3 o'clock, but we are going to wait for your cue or the chairman's cue. Whenever you're ready for us to go live, we will go live on your cue only.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Green, are you able to call in? Oh, yeah, maybe he's dialing. Okay.
Two-minute warning sounds like my cue.
Actually, I'm gonna go tell my son he's playing the piano. I want to make sure it's not too loud. So
I can't hear it.
Should we leave our video on until the flag?
Sure.
All right.
Fill
Yeah.
up those 6 spots so the rest of us can't be seen.
Right. For those who weren't on the test on Friday, only 6 video feeds can be seen at a time. And so after the, like when the presentations start, we'll want to leave our cameras off so that like Marianne or Tatiana can be seen. And then so that there's space for you all to turn on when you've got a question. Because if they're all full, we're not going to be able to see that. But yeah. Okay, so with the exception of Commissioner Green, who we still can't hear.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can. Yay. Okay.
Okay, I had to call in. I've been seeing everybody talking, and I didn't have any audio, so I was wondering what the conversation was about. But yes, I'm on my phone now. So.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay, so Commissioner Green, did you use that phone number that Melissa sent you in the chat?
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, well, Commissioner Thrower, whenever you're ready, we can cue HTV to start the meeting.
okay, I'm ready right now.
Chairman is ready. Planning Commission members, you are live in 3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the May 11th, 2020 regular meeting of the Hillsborough County City County Planning Commission. We thank you for attending this meeting. Your comments and participation are encouraged. All participants in the meeting will be muted until it is their opportunity to speak to minimize feedback in the audio. Planning commissioners should unmute themselves and turn on their camera to indicate they would like to speak. You can also send a chat to Melissa if you would prefer to be recognized that way. Please be sure to state your name at the beginning of your remarks for the benefit of the clerk. There will be an opportunity for members of the public to provide comments. Please click the raise hand button illustrated on the screen. You will be unmuted when it is your turn to speak. Please wait until the chair calls on you to begin speaking. Please state your name at the beginning of your comments and adhere to the time limits. Members of the public may also ask questions to staff at any time during the meeting by typing them into the questions chat box illustrated on the lower right of the screen. If anyone has difficulties or is watching via HTV and would like to speak during the public comment portion of the meeting, please call 813-273-3774, extension 359. That's 813-273-3774, extension 359. For action items, the meeting will be conducted as follows. The agenda item will be introduced. Staff will give their presentation with a 15-minute time limit. The applicant will be given the opportunity to make a presentation with a 15-minute time limit. Following presentations, members of the public may address the Planning Commission when recognized by the chair. Public comment will be heard for 3 minutes per person. The applicant will be afforded a 3-minute period for rebuttal or response. Planning commissioners will ask questions. Public comment will be closed. Then upon a motion, a second, and discussion, a vote will be taken. With that introduction, I'll ask Commissioner Powell to lead us in the prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Heavenly Father, I ask that you would be with us today, Lord, that you would grant myself, all of my fellow commissioners, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, Lord, that we would be able to make the best decisions for the citizens of Hillsborough County today. I ask all this in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Powell. Roll call, please.
Thrower,
Here.
Bernstein,
Here.
Cardenas, Dickerson, Dix,
Here.
Dowdy,
Here.
Green,
Yes, I'm here connected.
Joseph,
Here.
Press,
Here.
Moreno,
Here.
Howell,
Here.
Rodriguez,
Here.
and was Charles Andrews here for Amber Dickerson?
Yes, his hand is raised. I'm trying to figure out how to recognize him to speak. Oh, it looks like you're self-muted, Charlie. If you can unmute yourself, I can recognize you. There we go.
Oh, Charles Andrews is here for Amber Dickerson.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. The next item up on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from the February 10th, 2020 regular meeting, the March 9th, 2020 regular meeting, and the public hearing, Temple Terrace Plan Amendments, March 9th of 2020. Are there any changes? Okay, if no changes, would someone like to make a motion for approval?
Commissioner Dowdy, I'll move approval.
Okay, got a motion by Commissioner Dowdy. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Powell seconded. Any further discussion? No further discussion. All in favor of the minutes as presented, say aye. And I know the clerk's going to have to take a roll call vote.
Thrower,
Yes, approved.
Bernstein,
Aye.
Cardenas, Dix,
Aye.
Dowdy,
Aye.
Green,
Aye.
Joseph,
Aye.
Press,
Yes.
Moreno,
Aye.
Howell,
Aye.
motion carried.
Okay, thank you. Next up is agenda item number 2, public comment. If there is anyone who wishes to provide comments on items that are not on our agenda or agenda items that are not for action, please click the raise hand button. You will be unmuted when it is your turn to speak. Please wait until the chair calls on you to begin speaking and state your name at the beginning of your comments. You will have 3 minutes. I'll wait a second and just see if there is anybody out there before we move on.
Chairman, I don't see anybody who's raised their hand.
Okay, thank you. Since there's no public input, public comment, we will move on to item number 3. It's the briefing of the Wimauma Village Residential 2 Land Use Study and Community Plan Update. Hello.
Chairman Thrower, for the motion, my apologies, I forgot to state that the motion carried 10-0.
Okay, thank you.
All right, good afternoon, Commissioners. Tatiana Gonzalez, Planning Commission staff. This presentation is a status update on the WVR2 land use study and the community plan update. It is an information-only item. This map highlights the Wimauma Village Residential 2 study area in purple. WVR2 is a future land use category specific to the Wimauma Village community plan area. And this land use category is currently under a moratorium for new rezonings, and this study is evaluating the employment and service requirements associated with the category. The objectives of the study include updating the Wimauma Village Community Plan, developing a strategic action plan to revitalize downtown Wimauma, and providing policy recommendations for the WVR2 plan category. The WVR2 land use study itself will be completed by the University of South Florida's Center for Community Design and Research, which is the research division of the School of Architecture and Community Design. Parallel real estate market analysis and community profile will be completed by WTLNA. This analysis is informing the WVR2 land use study and ensuring that the final recommendations are grounded in market and economic realities. And working with the Planning Commission throughout this process are several Hillsborough County departments comprising the project management team, staff from Economic Development, Development Services, and Community and Infrastructure Services have been with plan progresses. And the team is now engaged in policy discussions and evaluating the consultants' recommendations, initial recommendations. Now, as part of the ongoing real estate market analysis, WTLNA prepared a few preliminary data points that we were able to share with the land use study consultants and the community. More than half of housing developments in Wimauma are owner occupied. However, 39% of the current housing inventory is only mobile homes, and housing vacancies in Wimauma are quite low, showing that housing is a major need in the area. Agriculture is a main employment center in Wimauma and accounts for 32% of all jobs. However, only 67 new jobs have been created in a 10-year period. The current jobs to population ratio in Hillsborough County as a comparison shows that there are 44 jobs for every 100 residents in the county. However, in Wimauma, there are only 11 jobs available for every 100 residents. Now, although the population in Wimauma has increased from 2006 to 2017, available employment remains low, which is prompting nearly 2,700 residents to leave the area to work daily. Now, a number that has also increased significantly in the last decade. Now, these statistics reinforce the critical importance of net new job creation in Wimauma. The public engagement and planning process for this study follows the 7-step community plan update process, which requires a public notice to be sent to all residents within the Wimauma community plan boundary. Now, we held the first open house in Wimauma in March to introduce the study team and to explain the land use study to the community and the community plan update process. And this was followed by a 3-day charrette in which the USF team gathered input from the community through a hands-on design workshop. The attendance at these events was very high, with more than 200 people attending the open house and the charrette. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19, staff had to move public engagement to an exclusively virtual platform. During the month of April, staff held a virtual workshop on the agency website and created an online survey in both English and Spanish to gather additional input from the community, and we actually received 100 survey responses. Staff is currently planning a second virtual open house, and that is anticipated later this summer. Now, based on the community outreach that we have had and the community input we've received, the project has developed some initial recommendations, and we've started the process of creating and modifying policies in both the comprehensive plan and the land development code. And some of these recommendations include appropriate increases in density to incentivize development in downtown Wimauma. As an example, through the voluntary use of transfer development rights from Balm to Wimauma. Another recommendation stemming from the real estate market study is the refinement of the job housing ratio in response to market reality and best practices, which could potentially decrease the required commercial square footage requirement. We are also exploring alternatives to the employment requirement, such as the provision of infrastructure improvements to promote mobility and appropriate employment siting. Finally, standards for residential development to include street network design and the expansion of open space requirements to include specific conservation and agricultural uses. Now, additional language will be provided for land development code text recommendations, and those are forthcoming, and it will include language for a proposed downtown overlay in Wimauma. Since the consultant, based on feedback from the community, has proposed moving the actual downtown core further east from its current location along SR 674, and also extending it north and south of 674. So our next steps are to hold the second open house, and we will be renoticing all the residents within the Wimauma community plan boundary. And the consultants will then provide their policy recommendations, and we'll have public hearings, which are expected sometime in the summer. And the final adoption is expected in the fall. Now, based on the Board of County Commissioners hearing on the 6th of this month, the moratorium may be extended, and additional information will be provided in June as to the length of that extension. All the materials from our outreach events and additional information regarding the study, such as the scope or the project timeline, are available on the Wimauma project page on the Planning Commission's website. We have included an email sign up for anyone who'd like to receive project updates as well. This has allowed us to actually stay in touch with the community during this time when we're unable to actually be present in the community to engage them. So the link that we've created is a bit.ly link to make it much easier for anyone to access our project page. And this concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from commissioners? I'll give you guys a second. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One question that I had, and I can't find the slides that you just had, so I'm sorry here on my computer. But you mentioned that has the decision already been made to shift the downtown core of Wimauma, or is that what the study is going to be looking at? You know, recommending that happen. That's my first one.
Okay. The decision to move downtown is not definite. It's been a discussion that we've been having with the consultant and with county staff to talk about the feasibility of doing so. It just came out of the outreach with the community in regards to the safety issues along 674 and actual access along that corridor. So it's not finalized. It's still a draft map that we have currently. So yes, so we're still in discussions about the feasibility of moving the downtown and having it move toward a more north-south Main Street than having it along 674.
Okay, so by the map here, the portion that is in the purple is that where the current downtown is, or and then like the blue is where it would be shifting? Just so I understand.
So the current downtown is pretty much along 674. There are a number of businesses along 674. There are a lot of properties though that are privately owned that are owned by the Church of God. So, and it's specifically for their use. So the community felt that it would be better to have an area where they could actually have more businesses, specifically like the Dollar General and some of the other types of businesses that they already have, like restaurants, and creating more of a core in that area rather than extending it all along 674.
Okay, because like I guess a concern I have, if that really is going to be, is that if I remember serves me correct, aren't we building a new middle school and high school like right there on 674 that's going to be opening up for the next school year? Like, I don't know how like it's fully going to shake out with with the plan for the downtown to be right, in that area, but it doesn't seem like that's a good place for me to have on the businesses, right there around, where you're going to have, teenagers, being there every single day for, a good portion of the year.
Sure. So the new schools, I believe, I think the new schools will be closer to further south, outside of the map, I believe, are the two proposed locations of the school. Currently, they only have 2 elementary schools, Wimauma Elementary, which is in this general area. I don't know if you can actually see my cursor. Let me see if I can draw. There we go. So here in this area is one school, and then we have the other school up in this area. Right here actually is Reddick Elementary School. So I think the new locations for the schools are outside of this area.
Yes, the 2 that are set to open, Commissioner Powell, are on 672, which is just north. I'm trying to think of it's the east-west road to the north of Wimauma. It actually will show up in some of the BALM maps, I think, that Mary Ann's going to be showing. So those are the ones that will be opening in August. And then the school district, it's my understanding, are actively looking at some school sites in the Wimauma area, but to our knowledge, they're not in the downtown.
Correct.
Okay. All right. And I guess my last question would be, are we going to be adding or looking to add any more density? Is that going to be considered to help the overall like redevelopment of Wimauma?
Yes. So in order to incentivize development in downtown Wimauma, one of the policies that we're looking at is potentially increasing the density that would be permitted in the downtown core. So that's one of the things that we're actually talking about right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Powell. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Give them a second. Any other questions, comments?
I don't see anybody else unmuting themselves at the moment.
Okay.
So.
Well, we will move on to item number 4. Thank you. Item number 4 is the briefing on a residential plan 2 land use study.
Good afternoon. I am Marianne Abrahamson, Planning Commission staff, giving you an update on the RP2 land use study. So here is an overview of the study area. The solid yellow is the RP2 future land use designation lands in the Baum and Sun City community plan boundary. And this is where the moratorium applies. So the study objectives for this future land use study are to review the market analysis and conduct public outreach, which will inform the policy recommendations for the RP2 future land use category and suggest changes to applicable policies in the Land Development Code. So Kimley Horn has been retained as the consultant for the future land use study portion. As Tatiana mentioned, WTLNA is conducting the real estate market analysis that will feed into the study, and we continue to work with departments with the county in regards to economic development services, and the community and infrastructure services departments, and are having meetings with them, getting feedback to any type of proposed change that will come out of this study. So as mentioned prior, there have been a series of stakeholder interviews which began earlier this year when we can still hold in-person meetings. So WTLNA and the Planning Commission staff conducted face-to-face interviews with RP2 stakeholders at the South Shore Regional Library, in addition to various phone interviews. And we were lucky to be able to hold our open house in person on March 11th at Summerfield Elementary. So you can see some images here from that open house. Over 60 people attended the open house, which began with a briefing, a brief presentation, and then went into different stations where people could provide their input and feedback and speak one-on-one with the consultants, county staff, and Planning Commission staff. Since then, we've pivoted from the form of outreach. Previously, we planned to do in-person interviews and a workshop to all virtual engagement. So a virtual workshop was held for about a week in April, which consisted of presentation slides with audio describing what we've heard from the stakeholders so far, and presented some overarching draft recommendations. The workshop had an accompanying survey to provide participants with another opportunity to let us know their thoughts on the direction and materials presented. This was uploaded to YouTube and embedded on the project webpage on the Planning Commission website. We've been updating people via email who are on the RP2 Constant Contact email listserv, and have also been using resources such as Facebook and Twitter to raise awareness and engagement. So for example, our public outreach team created reminder videos, if you will, promoting the workshop and survey, and posted the videos on social media. So as a supplement during the open house, a series of maps and visuals were created for participants to view in order to inform the conversation. And these residential permit maps were included with that. This provides visual of residential permits pre-recession, during the recession, and post-recession. The blue line represents the urban service area. And we feel like this serves as an interesting view as to where growth has occurred and where we may suspect growth to occur in the future with respect to activity along the urban service area boundary. So this information was also provided during the open house. This data was provided by WTLNA as a part of the real estate market analysis, and this data shows that there's currently 13 jobs to every 100 residents of Baum, and within an 11-year period, the percentage of individuals who leave Baum for work elsewhere increased by 105%. Within approximately the same time frame, 619 jobs were lost. And WTLNA's data informed us that 41% of jobs in BOM are within the agricultural sector, which suggests that many of the 619 jobs lost are due to fluctuations in this sector of the labor market. So here is some information about what we've heard in the open house from people who attended in regards to their feedback on the area today and their vision for the area in the future. So some initial policy recommendations for the RP2 land use study that we've been discussing with the consultants and with stakeholders and county staff are introducing policy refinement to the commercial housing ratio in response to the market reality that is provided by WTLNA, exploration of alternative options to support infrastructure improvements in the area, residential development standards in acknowledgement of varying character in the north and the south areas of the study area. And another thing that we've heard is very important for those living out there is the open space. So identifying options for connectivity of the open space in the area. So this schedule follows a similar schedule to WTLNA, or excuse me, to the WVR2 study. So although we're not updating the community plan with this scope, we're still trying to follow similar outreach strategies to make sure that both areas and both sets of stakeholders receive the same amount of opportunity to provide input. So as Tatiana had mentioned, we are looking at conducting a second open house in person, hopefully, depending on guidelines, in the summer. And we are trying to approach this with an awareness that maybe not everybody is going to be comfortable going to an open house in person. So we will be mindful of that and continue to engage people virtually as well. So the moratorium deadline, as mentioned by Tatiana, is subject to change based on the VOCC action, and hopefully we'll find more out about that in June to determine what the VOCC determines to be the right course of action for the moratorium deadline. So the RP2 project webpage on the Planning Commission website, similarly, again, to the WVR2 project webpage, has an opportunity for people to stay engaged and sign up to receive any email updates and informs people of the progress of the study along the way. So that concludes my presentation, and I am available for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Green, can you hear us?
Yes, yes, I can.
Okay, just wanted to make sure I got your message. Any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My first question is, you mentioned about the, I really couldn't see like that permit map. So I'm sure that it was like really nice, like data to see. I couldn't see it, and I don't think it was in our packet. If I could get a copy of that at some point after this, that would be great just to have. But you mentioned that the jobs, that were lost and that left, the area, majority of those were agricultural, or were they thought to have been from like the agriculture area? And my concern or not, I don't understand, is of those jobs that were lost, were those jobs that were like permanent jobs, or were those jobs for, people who are like transient workers who are just coming in, to help pick fields and things of that nature? And would we have lost those jobs, either way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good question. So what the data is telling us is that the agriculture accounts for 41% of all jobs, 619 have been lost, but I don't know that we have a breakdown of specifically, let's see, I can look into that, but I don't know that we have a breakdown of whether those jobs were transient jobs or not, but I can certainly look into that because I think that's a really good question. Yeah, let me make a note of that because I don't know that I have that information here. So let me make a note and I will get back to you on that as well.
Okay, and then one last question as it kind of relates to that. I know that there's a job component with the land development code for that designation, but do we know what type of jobs that we're hoping to establish or have, like created there? Because are we looking for, Wall Street to move into Wimauma, or are we, just hoping for, regular jobs such as employment from, restaurants or gas stations, things of, that nature? Like, what are we hoping to attract?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there is a commercial, currently there's a commercial requirement in the planned village category. And so that's something that we are looking at, whether that still remains something that's desirable or remains something that is really realistic now. I don't know that we are identifying necessarily what type of jobs we are suspecting that those commercial that commercial requirement would fill. Really anything, in my understanding, I see Jay's camera's on, so please feel free to interject. But in my understanding, anything that is really allowable under the commercial zoning criteria. So I don't know that we're looking to put big tech industry and bomb necessarily. My understanding is that it's commercial neighborhoods, neighborhood commercial jobs, if you will.
Right. Well, I mean, and that would make sense. Just that I know with a lot of those types of businesses, you first have to have the people there, and the traffic counts and things like that first, before they're going to move in, to those areas. And to me, it just seems kind of wishful thinking that, hey, it's almost like we're expecting these businesses to be there before the people are there, and that's simply never going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's certainly some feedback that we've been hearing as well. So that's a significant part of what we are looking at now in the updates. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, go on.
Oh, I just had a separate question for Melissa, but I didn't want to interrupt your thought there.
No, it's okay.
Melissa?
Yes, sir.
Thanks. Sorry, this is a little weird for me. I'm trying to read from my notes here, so apologize for not looking directly at you here.
Okay.
But on the, how are you seeing the study area efforts? Are they similar, or are they different? Is there any sort of influence on one or the other?
Yeah, I think there certainly are some similarities that we're hearing in terms of desire to have infrastructure keep up with the development that's occurring in the area. I think there are some differences in that this area, the RP2, there's more of a sentiment in BAUM for keeping things lower density. In Wimauma, I think there's more of a sentiment about creating that downtown, and they understand that they need some density to support that kind of commercial, and if they want to have mom and pop restaurants and things like that, they need customers. So I think there's some, that's where there's some difference, and I think you've hit on one of the key issues that we're going to have to figure out is how much commercial can each of these areas sustain, and because they're geographically different, but they're not that far apart either. And in the instance of the RP2, there are some major commercial areas along Big Bend Road and 301 that are proximate, but it also, because of the traffic and the infrastructure issues, a number of the residents brought up concerns about how long it takes them to get there.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions from any other commissioners?
I don't see anybody else unmuting themselves.
Okay. Give them a little.
I think everybody's very shy today.
Okay. No other questions? If no other questions, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on. Yep, thank you.
you.
We'll move on to the Executive Director's report. Melissa.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. I did want to note for the clerk in the record that Commissioner Cardenas joined after we had done the roll call and the approval of the minutes. So I wanted to make sure we captured that he is here. I emailed out my executive director's report since I couldn't hand it out in person today, and just wanted to highlight a couple of items on that. You will see that we, in March, had a number of these in-person outreach meetings. I made a couple of presentations. Everything was going along fairly normally, and then everything came to a screeching halt. But I want to say that I'm tremendously proud of the staff of our agency and how they have been able to adapt very quickly to telecommuting, to being able to have all of these virtual meetings with the community, convert that outreach to surveys. It's really been very impressive to me how quickly they've been able to change the mindset and adapt to that. One of the projects that we have had to adapt has been the request by the Board of County Commissioners for us to have some county-wide outreach on perceptions on growth. That was something that we were sort of full force ahead, and then recognized that even doing a telephone survey while everybody's home might seem like a really good thing to do. It might people's attention may not be on growth issues at the moment. So we've spent some time evaluating that. The other component of that project was to do some focus groups, which again, very challenging when you can't draw those people together in person. So we've put a little bit of a pause in that project and anticipate moving forward with some of those outreach efforts over the summer. Another effort that staff has been working on during this time has been looking at compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act as it comes to our website and the information that we put out through our website. So we all attended what's called 508 compliance training at the beginning of April, and we have a internal task force looking at how we can make sure our documents are easily accessible to folks with all sorts of disabilities. So you may start to see some changes in the documents that come to you and how they appear. Some of the ways we, instead of pointing to the color on a map, maybe describe its location instead. So those are some of the things that we've been spending some time on. We had a very successful virtual information barbecue on April 13th on missing middle housing, with some speakers from the city of St. Petersburg who have recently instituted some code and plan changes to encourage affordable housing in sort of lower density, triplex, quadplex types of development. So that was really great, and we were actually found that we were able to reach some additional folks who would not have normally been able to come to County Center to participate in something like that. So we're looking at how we can continue the virtual component to a lot of these things, because we're finding it's drawing in additional people. We're able to reach more folks. We got a request from the city of Tampa to work with them on a neighborhood commercial district corridor plan with a look towards potentially the Bay to Bay corridor. So we've been having some meetings with the city of Tampa staff on how that fits in the context of some other studies they are doing and how we can make this a pilot program to template in other areas of the city of Tampa. You'll see on my list of meetings a number of meetings related to the two studies that were presented today, as well as briefings with county commissioners. Those were on that same topic. The Board of County Commissioners, I presented them a memo last Wednesday outlining our need for their direction on how to proceed with closing these projects given the current public health crisis. Typically, we would have our closing open house as an in-person event, and if we were to have that on the time frame to meet the established public hearings that they had on their schedule, we would have had to convert that to an all virtual event. So we outlined some of the challenges with that in terms of particularly the Wimauma community having a significant number of residents who do not have access to technology and computers. And the board's direction was to try to extend either by shifting the public hearings or extending the moratorium a little bit to allow us to hopefully over the summer we'll have the ability to gather people in some form with appropriate social distancing and protections, but be able to have some in-person component to that final outreach to make sure we are getting all the input that we can. So that's just a little bit about what we've been doing in the last few months. Next month, we do anticipate having our June 8th public hearing covering both well, we'll have a regular meeting, and then we will have public hearings covering both the county plan amendments and City of Tampa plan amendments. Just on Friday, the governor extended his executive order allowing for virtual meetings to continue for 60 days by boards and commissions such as the Planning Commission. So we will be looking at a virtual meeting in June. We are hopeful that there'll be that we'll be able to gather just as much public comment as we normally would through this type of venue, and that through multiple practices like this, we'll be pretty good at getting attendees input. If the currently county center is closed to the public, should that condition change, we would also try to offer up some opportunity for those who cannot access the meeting through GoToMeeting or through their phone to be able to attend in person and have a laptop or something set up for them to walk up to and provide their public comment. Also, we're anticipating at your June meeting you all making a selection on the MPO Citizen Advisory Committee appointee. We did get 3 applicants for that. The bylaws outline that if we have 3 or less applicants, then those all can move directly to the Planning Commission board. If there were more applicants, then the Planning Commission Executive Committee would be charged with narrowing it to 3. So I would like your direction on whether you would like us to, at your regular meeting, have those 3 applicants give a 3-minute presentation on why they're interested in the position. I believe we did that 4 years ago when we first got an appointee, but then the last time we just had 1 applicant, so we didn't have, there was no need for that. So I'd be interested in your input on that. And then the last thing I had was I just wanted to mention that as part of our look at this countywide outreach on growth. I have executed a small contract with Kimley Horn. They now have the staff person who worked on our growth projections. He was originally with Cambridge and Associates, but now he is with Kimley Horn. I asked him to take a look at the questions that were being developed for those surveys to make sure that they would glean information that would be useful in his work on the projections. So I just wanted to mention that, and I think that covers all the updates that I had.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. Any comments or questions from commissioners?
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Joseph.
Yep, Commissioner Joseph, go ahead.
I did have one question for Ms. Zornita. I didn't hear anything today about our work program involving the revisions to the comp plan that we were kind of hot and heavy with before all this kind of kicked up. I saw in your notes you had a mention of One Water and something about some sustainability outreach, but I know we were supposed to be working on conservation and sustainability and also working on One Water and getting that ready to be brought forward. So I'm wondering how that stands.
Yes, thank you for asking about that, because the update of the comp plan has been a significant work project for our organization and something that we've made a lot of great headway on during this time, actually. The One Water, it's not an element anymore, a chapter of the comprehensive plan, which updates stormwater, water, sewer, those elements, as well as part of the conservation element, are already submitted as part of the April cycle of plan amendments. And we have a lot of good input from the county departments over the last year in putting that together. The remainder of the conservation element, we're now calling the environmental and sustainability section of the plan. And that also, we have a draft filed in the April cycle of plan amendments. We're still working with the county on getting all of their input. So we'll see exactly what time frame that moves forward on as we get their input and see what else
have they said, or is it just kind of up in the air for now, or are we gonna, do we expect it like again the June-ish time period, July-ish time period, or what's kind of, I'm trying to get a feel of what's going on, I guess, over there.
Yeah. Well, the One Water, all of the April cycle of amendments should be, you should get a briefing of them in June, and then the public hearings for the privately initiated amendments are scheduled in July, and the publicly initiated amendments in August. Okay. So the only question is identifying whether or not we have enough time between now and June to incorporate the county department's edits into the environmental and sustainability section.
So where are they at? Do you know where they are at with their edits, or is that kind of what we're waiting on?
Yeah, we're scheduling some meetings. They've had some change in personnel. They have a new person who's heading the natural resources section and development services. She's been there about a week, from my understanding. So, so we're trying to give them some time to digest it and make sure it works for them and is implementing everything that it was set out by the Board of County Commissioners in some of those workshops earlier this year. So I do anticipate that may take a little bit longer and maybe a couple of months behind the One Water, potentially.
All right. Well, I'd like to see those hurry up and get a move on there. Definitely looking forward to seeing that come forward, and also the rest of the work we have coming up ahead of us with the revisions to the comp plan. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions from commissioners or comments? No additional questions, comments?
Nope.
Okay, thank you, Melissa.
Is there any opinion on having the 3 applicants for the MPO-CAC? Would you like them to present to you next month before you make a decision?
I think personally, I think it's kind of nice to hear from them.
Okay. I'm seeing head nods and
I
thumbs
agree.
up. Okay, great. That's exactly the feedback I needed. Thank you.
I had another comment also, Mr. Chair, if I could.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to suggest, Melissa, I don't know what the timing of something like this would be, but in echoing Commissioner Powell's sentiments, I don't know if we have planned a workshop for ourselves as a board to discuss the Wimauma Village and the RP2, but we've been dealing with those two things in that area of the county for quite some time now, so I think it might behoove us all to sit down and maybe have a conversation about it as a board on the record that's not, in a planning meeting or in a hearing, but sort of that sort of thing. So.
Yes.
And of course, the timing would be left up to you. The feasibility of it would also obviously be left up to you, but I think it might be good to have those discussions.
Absolutely. Yes, as we get we anticipate having more of a firm draft of the recommendations by the end of the month. And so that will hopefully give us time between now and an August public hearing for us not only to vet it with the public through a number of different venues and hopefully in-person ones, but also with you all. So there should be time for that. And okay. The only question is whether or not we're continuing to do it this way, or we get to all be in a room together talking about it.
Right. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, kind of echoing what Commissioner Joseph was saying, I would really like to have a workshop when we start to discuss the text amendment that's coming up for adding attainable housing to the code. Because I've had obviously, well, the AHAB hasn't been meeting at all, but I had some concerns or just some thoughts that I wanted to share with everyone as we were going to be incorporating that, because I still think I didn't get to attend the missing middle brown bag unfortunately, but I was hoping to discuss that a little bit more. So I don't know if that's going to be possible at all, but I'd like to see that.
And are you referring to the amendment that just came through as part of the April cycle? You should have been sent out something about it. It's a privately initiated amendment to add attainable housing bonuses. Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to make sure clear about what you were.
Because there was I thought that there was for the density bonuses, but then there's also just the housing element text amendment where just adding attainable housing to the code. And it seemed to me that we might be identifying or not identifying, but setting parameters for what is going to be attainable housing and outside of affordable housing, and we're looking at it being 80 to 120% of the AMI. But a big concern I have is what happens about, for the people who are, that missing middle from between that 50 and that 80%, that's a pretty large, demographic. So I didn't know if we were actually going to be, defining, attainable housing as those in that 80 to 120%, of AMI, or if that was just, something that we were going to be using, from the Housing and Urban Development, income guidelines, or if we were going to be setting that, ourselves for our own code.
Right. So this amendment was privately initiated by an applicant. So it's not something initiated by our staff, but certainly that would be something that would be a subject of a briefing with you all next month. Okay. And knowing these questions ahead of time, we can be sure to have some discussions with the applicant, as well as with some of the county folks in terms of affordable housing ahead of that briefing. So hopefully we have some good information to share.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? No additional comments? Okay, we will, thank you, Melissa.
Sure, thank you.
We're going to move on to other business. First up is chair's business. I wanted to echo Melissa's earlier comments and thank staff for smoothly transitioning to telecommuting and holding the virtual meetings and virtual outreach. I think they've done an excellent job. I wanted to thank IT, especially like Lionel has helped me considerably in terms of setting up for this meeting and everything. So, and I know there's other folks involved, but I wanted to thank everyone. So that's all I have for chair's business. I'm going to go on any old business. Anyone? No old business. Actually, I did want to mention under old business, the Melissa, I don't believe you mentioned it. Your review will be next meeting too, right?
Yes, we decided to wait until we had other action items and in hopes that the meeting would be in person in June, but it doesn't look like it necessarily will be.
Okay, and I know we've already gone through the process. It's just discussing it and everything. We've already taken the actual assigning the numbers, numerical numbers and everything. It's just discussing that and everything. I just wanted to throw that out there so the planning commissioners are aware of it and can kind of look back over that before our next meeting. That's all I have for old business. Any new business, anyone? Okay, no new business. Any committee reports? Commissioner Powell.
Hi, again. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick update, the AHAB has not had any recent meetings. The meeting for this morning was canceled, but I do think that we will be having a meeting next month so I'll have a little bit more information to report. One good thing that did happen, which I think a lot of people probably already may have seen, but with the Florida legislature, my understanding, they did approve the full funding of the Zardowski Trust. So I believe we're going to be seeing a lot more funds come in for our public housing and that we should have been getting all along. So I think it's the first time since maybe like Governor Bush, since we have this been fully funded. So that's a good thing. But outside of that, that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Any other committee reports? No other. Oh, Commissioner Dowdy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And it's really not a committee report. It's just to echo along like what Commissioner Powell said. The River Board Technical Advisory Committee has not held any meetings since this pandemic started. So just to clue you in that they haven't happened, and we're hoping that they happen soon. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Marino.
Thank you. Just from the MPO, the Unified Planning Program, we had that discussion in April, and then coming up for our May meeting, they'll also be discussing studies to be added to the list. One of the things that came out of the last Global Roadways Committee was to add or at least increase the focus on specifically safe south route to school, walking to school. So I was very pleased that an idea that came out of the Global Roadways Committee was at the top of the list for the possible future studies to be added to the UPWP.
Thank you. That's good. Any other committee reports? I think that's the last one, but okay, no further committee reports. I think that's it for us. Melissa, you have anything to add before we adjourn?
No,
Anybody else have anything to add or anything? Okay, then we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.